Hello, Travis. We actually are back for a new comic book roulette. Um, we did that first episode and we did three. Was it three each?
Yeah, it was three random back issues from whatever time period, new or old.
Because we're kind of stuck. Comic book stores aren't exactly rocking and rolling right now. It just makes more sense to do it this way, where we're going to do a single issue each and one graphic novel or trade paperback, whatever. There is a difference.
Yeah.
Graphic, not all trade paperbacks are. Wait, how does it work? All comic books are all graphic novels are comic books. Not all comic books are graphic novels. There you go.
Yeah, actually, to tell you the truth, whenever we do get together to do the video again like this, by that time I might have some back issues I bought from a store. One of the stores out here, Time Warp, and we talked about before on I think one of these videos. They're doing live stream sales, and they did one yesterday, and I bought something from them. They actually had some really cool, not just like random back issues, but some key issues for some ridiculous prices. And the guys from I Want More Comics, who's a store out in Thornton, Colorado, they were helping put on this live stream for Wayne, the owner of Time Warp, because I Want More Comics does the stream as well on a regular basis. And there was just they had a Cadillacs and Dinosaurs comic I really wanted.
That's your stuff, man.
For a really good price.
That's your stuff. Yeah, I saw 3 Alarm Comics out in Mississippi has been doing a bunch of live streams. I saw Scott Hoverman's the owner. I saw you had Scott Collins on, which is pretty cool. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I was kind of busy at the moment, but
yeah.
But let's get started because we tend to run long on this. So we're gonna start with yours, and I can guess pretty easily why you went with Legionnaires, which is look, Back Issue Roulette. It's supposed to be kind of random, but yeah, Legionnaires number 7 definitely random.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely is.
Like
and funny enough,
late 90s, I'm guessing.
What was that?
Probably late 90s, like 98, 97.
Oh, this was 90. I think 90 had to be 92 or 93. Oh no, 93.
Okay.
Because there's a Jurassic Park reference too in this.
Okay.
In this issue.
But obviously the reason you chose it is Adam Hughes.
Yes, and this is. I think this is the only one he actually did interiors on. I might be wrong because he doesn't do interiors after this issue. He does a bunch of covers, which this is not the best. It's a great cover, but this is not of the covers that he did for these. This is not his best. But I really love this issue. You were with me when I actually picked this one up. This was in the 50-cent bin at Time Warp when you came to visit.
Okay, I do vaguely recall you saying like "cool Adam Hughes." I do have to say, I mean, it's a clever way to cover up his signature, but the style of his signature on this cover looks suspiciously, shall we say, well, we might identify the person in the picture as a seaman because he's in the sea. And he's a
next panel. I think that's just where your mind's going.
No, it looks like that.
Well, sure it is. Just all over the cover, huh?
I like these old classic style opening page. Well, it wasn't always an opening page. Sometimes it was like the second page or whatever. But the introduction. When people complain now about like comics too hard to get into, like back then they used to actually. It was just as complicated, but they put effort into making sure when you picked up an issue, you had at least a baseline of what was going on.
That's exactly why I picked this issue. And I'm going to make this brief, but I remember picking this up, and I picked up a couple modern books. And I'm not going to drag the other book through the mud right now, but that was a number 1. and I opened it up and I read it, and I was completely lost. There was no other book besides this number one before it, and I was clueless on who the characters were. It's almost like I picked up a issue that started out right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually very, very angry about it. I remember telling you about that over the phone, how angry I was. And then I go to Legionnaires, and as soon as you open the page, you're introduced to everyone who's in the book. This whole story is a one-and-done story. It's them getting away and having like a relaxing vacation under the sea in this area, in this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very fun. It's very well drawn, and that's why I picked it. It's you don't get a lot of books like this where it's just a one and done thing. A lot of the other Legionnaire books, they do have some overarching stories between each issue, but this one was a great for a one and done story.
Yeah, the Legionnaires, as I recall, was a spinoff of the Legion of Superheroes book. You can tell what era this is because, as much as possible, they tried to modernize it. Because Legion is one of the weirder DC comics where over the 70, 80 years that the comics exist or the characters have existed, they've gone through different iterations where like, oh, we're going to make it more modern. You know what? No, let's bring it back to the way it was. So like when you look at the names, Inferno is Sunboy, Apparition, Phantom Girl. I'm not sure if Andromeda was a character, but Triad was I can't think of the character's name actually in the original, but they tried to modernize it a little bit rather than a couple of them like Matter Eater Lad and Ultra Boy, they kind of kept the name.
Matter Eater Lad steals the show for me in this book. I mean, there's really some fun stuff with it. Other things that's going to steal the book for people are how beautiful the women are drawn in this book by Adam Hughes, and that's what his MO is. What he's known for, drawing like cheesecake style art, and you could really see that in some of the other stuff that I shared you in some of the other pages I shared.
But not in this next panel where Matter Eater Lad is eating a gun.
Well, the next one I have, hold on.
Yeah, I kind of screwed up when
out of order.
Yeah, they're out of order. I the way I sent it for Legionnaire screwed it up, but whatever. But I'm on the panel where Matter Eater Lad is eating a gun.
Well, I'll put that on there just because we were talking about when we were looking at the art books, and we were talking about specifically was for Dan Panosian, and we're talking about storytelling and cartooning and how you can, you exaggerate certain things on a character and it makes it like, it just punches up the story for you. And even if you didn't have that little word balloon, this is a funny panel. You kind of understand what's going on. He's pissed. He's eating, he's telling off this guy and he's eating this guard's gun. I just thought it was such a great panel. And Adam Hughes is pretty good at that. If you see some of the facial expressions and the storytelling he has from page to page is pretty great.
The next panel I have is a nice booty shot of Andromeda. Actually, it's all the girls.
Yeah. I actually picked this, this another one I kind of picked just for facial expressions in the storytelling,
Oh, is that why? Is it the face that you're looking at in this?
I mean, they have faces, Adam.
Do they? I see buns and boobs and muscles.
Yeah, I see story.
And Adam. Legs. Oh.
No, it's that one in particular. Hold on, I think we're like I was saying about Adam Hughes. It's cheesecake art, and he draws women so well.
You can see a little bit of. I can never remember the name of the artist, but the artist that did the 14 panel designs that always work. You know what I'm talking about? But you can see a little bit of that, especially with the close up of Andromeda yelling, "Hey, you guys!" and
again, like the cartooning is really fun in here. It really sells you, especially that second panel with her hair all crazy. You know, it's completely unrealistic, right? It's that whole shocked look. You know, she's upset, and the panel's even tilted with the border is bold on there. So it was a really fun page, and you kind of get the story from it as well.
Yeah, I like the fourth panel. You know, you can see how much effort went into this because there's no single panel that's alike. Even the two that are two squares are completely different images, and then the fourth panel is a complete silhouette.
Mm-hmm. Well, as an artist, for me, what's nice when you start from that one panel, and as a camera, you get that one view, and then you go into the close-up, almost as she turns, and then the camera turns to her side profile, and then goes to the next panel where it zooms out for that silhouette, and it kind of goes to over her shoulder, walking away from those guys. Or is that no? I'm sorry, it's not her walking away.
No, it's her facing them. Yeah, she's still yelling at them.
Yeah.
The next one I have says later, and it's them in bikinis and more boobs and buns.
Again, strict storytelling here. Nothing else. Very by the book. Just plain story. Nothing else is the focus of this book.
I like Brainiac 5 getting a look at that booty.
Yeah.
He's just like, Laurel!
And it's electrocuting him.
Yeah. I'm not really sure I understand that, but I mean, that was, it goes to, like you said, the cartooning. That's one problem with a lot of modern comic book artists is, well, it's not just the artists, it's the comic book industry is gone past this postmodern phase where they were like, oh, we need realism and all that, and like, sometimes it's nice to have, those old, because most like older artists are influenced by people like Charles Fleischer and Looney Tunes, Chuck Jones, and and it's nice to like go back to that a little bit.
Yeah, even like things like handwritten text, you don't see a lot of those little effects like the thunderbolts. As silly as it is, you don't see any of that anymore. Or a lot of it. The only artist who comes to mind where I see him draw sound effects is Daniel. Was it? Daniel Warren. I'm butchering his name. He's the guy who did the Wonder Woman book we were talking about.
Oh, the one where you're saying it was more of a manga style. Yeah, I don't remember. I never read that book.
Yeah, I think it's Daniel Warren Johnson.
That sounds familiar.
He does that.
The next one I have is starts with this is the Jurassic Park reference you mentioned, Atlantic Park.
Yeah, I kind of included this because this for me was like very 90s. Besides the reference, because used to have these like tongue-in-cheek jokes more, and I would find in 90s books.
Yeah, I mean, it's specifically the font that, like, if a kid read this now, they wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
Like, it's very specific. And, just gonna say, more buns!
Again, all storytelling, Adam. I don't know what you're seeing here.
Alright, let's see. And I think this is the last...
Unless you want to.
Wait, what?
You don't need to talk about the one where it's like the buildings in the top panel.
Yeah, it's I guess that's Sunboy doing some sort of spectroanalysis or something like that with a mermaid.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess we're moving on to mine. Unless you got anything else to say, like, about the Legionnaires number 7.
I will say this: if people want to check out that book. In particular, it actually should be pretty easy to find in back issue bins, or you can ask your local store online if they have it, and they can probably mail it to you if you really want it. They also have some amazing other issues that feature a cover by Adam Hughes, and those were worth it to buy if you're an Adam Hughes fan. Amazing covers.
Cool. So my single issue is Thunderstrike #1. And it's as 90s as it gets. He's got an earring. He's got a leather jacket. The cover is... I don't know if it's technically foil embossed. It's like glitter embossed.
Yeah. You actually have this issue, like a physical issue of this. It's not digital for you, right?
Right. Yeah, I have it behind me. But it just... It was just easier just to copy it on.
The image I have, it just, you don't see that. It almost looks just like a texture, but I'm guessing it is like the holographic.
No,
that's so 90s.
Yeah, no, the actual cover isn't as blue as it seems in this. I love Thunderstrike. This was the follow-up to, at the time, Ron Frenz and Tom DeFalco were doing Thor, and, if you saw Infinity War, during the time of Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War in the comic books, Thor had died and was replaced by a friend of his, Eric Masterson. And eventually, Eric Masterson had Mjolnir, and he would transform into Thor, but he would have his own... It was still him, it wasn't Thor's personality. So he was kind of a guy cosplaying as Thor, but with Thor's powers. And eventually Thor came back, and Odin was like, the world still needs heroes, so he gave him his own enchanted... But it's not a hammer, it's a mace. And the mace is called Thunderstrike, and it actually says the world still needs heroes on it. Which I've always loved that little line, the world still needs heroes, because it's definitely true. So Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz started the Thor spinoff Thunderstrike, and this cover is badass.
Yes,
I love it. It's explosive. I've heard people complain about the costume, and they can kiss my ass. Yes, I actually don't like the earring. I think the earring looks kind of stupid. But I don't care. The leather jacket, even the ponytail, don't care.
Yeah.
So in...
They even have the padded boots like that, or the armored boots.
Mm-hmm.
And then a jacket with no sleeves. That was the thing. It's like, how can we make this extreme? No sleeves.
Well, you can actually see the comparison because in the next page, it's one of the first pages in the issue, is the costume that Thor had at the time when Eric Masterson was Thor.
Also, this is a great splash page. Great splash page.
It's fantastic. Ron Frenz doesn't get enough credit. This team actually went on to do a successful run on Spider-Girl, Mayday Parker, and now that's not Spider-Gwen. Modern audiences might think of Spider-Gwen, but Mayday Parker. But this run was so awesome, and this is one of the more recognizable Thor costumes. But it's the Eric Masterson Thor. The next panel is one of my favorite splashes in this book. It's so awesome. The perspective is... It's actually, when I look at...
the panel?
Yeah, it's funny because it's the opposite of, or the inverse of the cover. And the cover actually, if you look at it, there's a few perspective issues with it, but this one's perfect. Everything about this.
Yeah. This could be if they took that pose and transferred it to the cover, they could have used that for this pose and drawing as a cover, technically.
Absolutely. It just takes you back. I love the perspective on it. The panel layout where he's literally leaping off the page. Yeah. And you can tell that's intentional. His body moves out of the panel and it's supposed to be literally coming at you.
Great panel.
The next page is him in a fight with in the first issue they give him his own villain, Blood Axe, who has if you saw Thor Ragnarok, he has the axe of Scourge. And so Blood Axe there's a mystery of who he is, and they let you know, I think in the first issue, that Blood Axe...
Scourge and Axe and Thor Ragnarok, I just remember, the guns, right? Was it Sodom and Gomorrah, or whatever he named it?
It wasn't Sodom and Gomorrah, but it was. But anyway, no, he had it. So Scourge's axe is similar to Thor's Mjolnir. Like it gives a random person the power of Scourge, and at the time Scourge was dead in the comics. So they wanted to give Thunderstrike his own villain, and I think in this issue they explained that the mystery will be that Blood Axe is a friend of Eric Masterson's. So he's fighting somebody that he actually loves. And but the whole issue revolves around the fact that he's used to being Thor and having Mjolnir, but Thunderstrike isn't as powerful. So he goes up against Blood Axe, and Blood Axe kind of kicks his ass. But very old school panels. No background here, just like giving you very Jack Kirby-ish. Like you get the impression that like this tremendous calamity is happening from these weapons, just from the lines exploding out of the.
Yeah. Well, I think that the point was like if you're going to think of this playing out as a movie, I think it was to focus on the weapons, like the new Thunderstrike weapon, and then you have the axe, Scourge's axe, hitting each other and fighting it out, and then it ends on that close up of the two weapons.
What do you know about weapons, Travis Hymel? The next one's a splash page, double panel splash, and love it. Love it.
I don't know. I don't say anything anymore.
We'll all be better off. But but if you look at the anatomy in this is very Kirby.
Yes.
The way it's hard to explain, but the way it's drawn. But I love this book. I was a big fan of Thunderstrike. Yes, it's very 90s, but people kind of crap on the 90s, and the 90s were awesome. At least as far as comics. Even, like one of the things people most like to crap on is the Clone Saga from Spider-Man. But in the beginning, that was awesome too. The reason it became like such a beast and like overtook all the stuff was all the books was because it was so popular at the time, and eventually it just kind of became too much. But it was awesome. So I
actually really love this, especially the composition with the axe coming in the foreground, and then you have Blood Axe kind of falling over a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's actually a really cool double page spread.
Uh-huh. I think this is Thunderstrike turning the tide. But I do. We were talking mostly about the art, but. Tom DeFalco was like I think he was also Marvel's editor-in-chief at the time, but a really prolific writer, and this team was dynamite back then. I don't know who the inker is, and I don't want to like discredit the inker. Obviously, they have, and also this is around the time when the colors got more advanced as well, as you can tell.
To be honest, I personally don't too much. I mean, there's some rendering, there's some like shadows added in, but to me, this is still pretty old school. The way it looks.
Well, I'm saying you don't see the dot matrix as much.
Yeah.
At this point. So your first trade paperback, the Wretch Omnibus.
You can see I kind of like doing some kind of theme, and what the theme is, because Legionnaires is a random book I grabbed. In this Wretch Omnibus, I don't think a lot of people are familiar with it, probably.
I'm not.
I know you are. We talked about it before. But I know you're familiar with Phil Hester, at least.
Yes.
He did an amazing one on Green Arrow. He's been in the industry for years.
Mm-hmm.
He probably, if he ever heard this, he probably wouldn't like it because you'd probably make him sound like he's very old. But he's a really great artist and a great writer as well. I picked this up, I think last year because they were doing this this online publisher, and I think it was Omaha Bound, was doing like a special where if you could buy it, you could buy it early, pre-order. It was like a Kickstarter without being a Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked it up for a pretty good price, and I read through it. I was familiar with a little bit of it because I have some copies lying around, some older ones, because at one time it wasn't known as the Wretch, it was known as the Creep. And I don't know why he changed it, but I'm glad he did. I like the Wretch better than the Creep, in terms of the name of it.
The cover is interesting. Like, I understand it's a black and white book, as we'll get into in a second.
Yeah.
And this is a great cover. I love the use of shadow, and especially as it incorporates the logo. But what's interesting is, usually, even with black and white books, usually the cover is in color. Like, even The Walking Dead, famously a grayscale book.
Yeah, some of the other books, I think I've seen a collection. It wasn't like it's still black and white interiors, but I think it was through Slave Labor Graphics had published like a trade of it. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that was kind of like was like an orange or a red background or something like that. And then of course, because the character himself, he's just essentially a silhouette, like a shadow, like a walking shadow.
Uh-huh.
So really, there's not much to color on there.
Yeah, you should actually explain what the Wretch is, because I don't know anything about the book.
So this book, what I love about it is, it's several different. It's almost like an anthology itself, because it doesn't just focus on the same kind of characters. The Wretch appear in all of these, or the Creep, whatever you want to call them. But I'm trying to put it the best way. So it takes place in this place called Glass City, and he kind of just shows up when these weird things start happening around the city, from like demon possession, alien invasions, random occurrences like a monster dog showing up, and then the Wretch comes in, and he does save the day. He's always silent. He doesn't say a word. And he does things to kind of cleverly solve the problem. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to give too much away because people should pick this up and read it. It's a very 90s independent comic kind of feel to it, especially when you look at some of the pages that I shared for this. You'll get that vibe.
And on that note, the first one, The Slide to Nowhere.
Yeah, so that's not the first story in the omnibus, but I really just wanted this to be kind of like a starter one because it has the old name on it and his old character design.
Okay.
It's the first character design. He looks more alien. He has like those tubes and everything all over him.
Uh-huh.
And also, it's a really kind of a cool page. I don't know if Phil inked this one. It's several people throughout this book. There's different inkers on different stories. So I'm not sure who worked with them on this, but really cool textures on the brick. I really like this. And also the old school kind of lettering at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. And then the old cartoon, America's most beloved cartoon star. Let's see. The next panel is completely silent. I take it this is from the same story?
Yes. So I picked this one visually, especially the panel on the left. I love that panel. Mm-hmm. Plays, and I've talked about it on here before about positive and negative space. This book is a great example of that. A lot of different stories in here have great examples of what he does with positive and negative space. Mm-hmm. But going back to the whole silent thing, the character itself is silent, and I almost think, and I'm just assuming, it might have been like an exercise to do just storytelling without any lettering or anything. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But a lot of these stories have him just kind of go through the motions and just storytell without any text at all.
Cool. Next page has a character flying up or getting. I guess
don't want to mention any butt or anything. I mean, she's in her underwear. You sure you didn't want to see that?
Oh, that's a woman.
It's a woman thing.
Sweet buns. No, I couldn't. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell that was a woman in this. Oh, geez, Eric, I didn't know your sister was so hot. Okay, apparently it's a hot woman. So yeah, yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. And she's in her bra and panties. Nice.
Like, this book just got interesting for me.
Swing. Anyway.
Again, most of these, I didn't want to keep pulling a lot of pages from here. I pulled this one because it's one of the early stories in the book, and it's very impactful, especially that top kind of, it's not a splash, but that it's the largest panel on the page. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool, really spooky look, and it really captures the vibe of that first story. Kind of creepy, but there's a lot of humor in this as well. It's not necessarily like a serious book all the time in terms of what the story content is.
Let's see. And the next panel, I like this a lot. This grayscale with the cemetery.
It's actually one of my favorite stories in the book. I think it's one of the only ones that actually I think has any kind of gray tones or anything like that. Sometimes it zipatone and stuff, but this is the only one I think that has this gray tone. And I don't want to give too much away for the story because you could actually still get this book. You can buy it online from Omaha Bound, or if Phil Hester, if he's at conventions, whenever conventions start up again, he should have copies, hopefully, of this.
What are the Wretch's abilities?
There's nothing specific. He can pretty much do all kinds. There's no defined abilities for him. Uh-huh. His powers are he kind of gains powers depending on the situation.
Mighty convenient.
There's one where he essentially turns into a Shazam type character to fight this intergalactic character that comes to destroy the Earth. Okay. You know, there's things and a lot of times it might not make a lot of sense to the reader to the end of the book of what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Because it's such a weird book to talk about. I probably picked the worst one to probably talk about because the book doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes.
And on that note, I guess we'll
cut
move
the
on.
Entire segment.
I guess we'll move on to mine. It's okay that your book sucks because my book is awesome. No, no offense to Phil Hester, that was a joke. So what I chose, and this cover is actually the cover of the first issue. It's not the cover of the omnibus. The omnibus is a little more vague. It doesn't tell you a lot. You kind of have to know what you're looking for. Yeah. But this is actually, this is my favorite limited series, or I guess this is a maxi series. I never read it as a comic book. I read it when it was collected years later. It's J. Michael Straczynski, who, anybody who knows me, is a hero of mine. Babylon 5 is his most famous creation. He's also written, I can't remember if it's Oscar-nominated or Oscar-winning screenplays. I know he wrote The Changeling that Ron Howard directed, and that, I want to say that won an Oscar for Best Screenplay.
Yeah.
But, so it's him and Gary Frank, who's lately is mostly known for working with Jeff Johns. And basically what the book is about is, so the guy on the cover is an LAPD detective named David Gray. He's investigating a murder. There's this crime boss that they suspect of of having ordered the hit, and it's really gruesome crimes. So he goes in with a SWAT team. The SWAT team gets destroyed, and he gets attacked. And when he wakes up in a hospital, no one can see him. So basically, what the story is about is David Gray with another character named Laurel, who's also on the cover here, have 1 year to travel across America, avoiding. There's these characters called walkers, and they're kind of zombies, not exactly. They're not dead. It's but they're effectively zombies in terms of like how they portray. But they're all across America, and he has to get from L.A. to New York. That's kind of a reveal. Sorry, but it's not much of a reveal. To reclaim his soul. I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but
hey, dude, you're doing better than me on the last one.
But basically, what the book is about, the reason it's called Midnight Nation, it's about the people who fall between the cracks. You know, the people that we forget about, the people that we ignore. And it's a really spiritual book. It's not religious, although there's religious references and religious overtones. But it is a wonderful book. I recommend it to. This is one of the books that I recommend to people who don't read comics. I love this book. The art by Gary Frank is fantastic, which we're about to see.
Yeah, that's another thing about it. Really good artwork. Beautiful book. I've never read this, though. I've never heard of it until we talked about it today.
It's not super famous. On in terms of Straczynski's comic book work, it's pretty much his work on Spider-Man, which is among the best Spider-Man comics ever, and Rising Stars, which I never read much of, and it's kind of a superhero story, but I never cared much to look into it. This book I came across, I don't remember quite how. But the first page, you can see the walkers. Again, they're not zombies exactly. They're more like they're humans, but they're like wild animals. Like,
when did this come out, by the way? I'm sorry to change the subject real quick.
Early 2000s, like maybe around 2004, 2005.
It's definitely got that Top Cow style that I'm used to seeing from like maybe The Darkness, I would say. Gary Frank, the way the art looks.
Yeah, I'm trying to read the cover and see if it says, but I can't. It's not big enough. But on this panel, it's the detective fighting a walker, and it's the storytelling here. You can see like he looks like two wild animals fighting, and he's about to smash his skull in with a brick, and all of a sudden, this is something that you don't get from zombie books. Like, you see the walker's humanity. Mm-hmm. It's pleading. This is some of Gary Frank's best work, in my opinion. Like, in his earlier work, I don't know if you remember when Gary Frank was on Supergirl, but it was more of an Adam Hughes style. It wasn't Adam Hughes. It was distinctly Gary Frank. And that carried on as he went into Incredible Hulk. He did an amazing run on. Gary Frank was amazing on Incredible Hulk for years. But this is kind of the transition period. Now his style is a lot more detailed, like unnecessarily. But this is kind of like peak Gary Frank to me. Next panel is it's kind of a reveal. But this is actually this is a pretty big reveal. I
was going to say because this spoils it. Now I'm like, what the hell? Because
okay, so they I mean, it's not much of a they reveal early on that the reason, like, if he doesn't get his soul back, he'll become a walker. Yeah. This doesn't ruin the book, trust me. But he's talking to the villain. And there's nothing. I don't think anything's explained here too much. But yeah, just gorgeous artwork. Next page. So a lot of this is you're seeing David as he turns slowly into an animal. And this is a dream sequence, but this is him fantasizing about being a walker. And again, like, the art is fantastic. The facial expression, like the pure glee as he's about to murder a man.
Yeah. Again, great art. I'm looking at the bug eyes at the bottom. I can't help but just look at that guy.
Well, what do you know about getting mauled by an animal, Travis Hymel?
I mean, it's not an animal, it's a walker. They do have certain levels of humanity.
They do. That's the last thing that I copied.
Is it?
Again, like, there's a lot to this book. It's a very long. It's a 12-issue maxi series, so it takes a while to read. If you get the omnibus, it's one of those fantastic. It's not. It's about the size of a prestige format book. Like, it's much larger. Huh?
Is it still in print?
Yes, as far as I know. Yeah, the omnibus. I bought the omnibus a couple. Is it the omnibus? I think it's a different term. It's one of the ones with the slipcover.
Okay.
You can buy. There's trades of it. There's a good chance if you call around to different stores, one of them, one or another is going to have a copy of Midnight Nation, most likely. But I love this book. It's among my highest recommendations. And even though, like, you might be able to get a hold of the single issues somewhere. I'm sure the print run wasn't high. It's not well known, but and I don't know. I don't think this was ever optioned for a movie. Maybe it was, but if you get the chance,
it would fit those the mold of, like, early mid 2000s kind of movies, sci-fi movies. I could see it being made into that.
Right, but a lot of the stuff that's optioned tends to be superhero stuff, and this is not that. There's a lot of action in it, but there's also a lot of stuff that isn't. Like, all the panels that I'm showing you are action panels, but there's a lot of just spiritual discussion in this book. There's one issue that's literally like a bottle episode of a show where these characters are all discussing their lives and how they came into the world they live in. Is called The Place in Between, and it's sort of like it's the same world that we live in, but it's like subspace, like it's on a different plane. So the people in the place in between aren't seen by regular people, and then they can't even see the regular people for the most part.
Okay.
But there's a lot of world building in it, and it's a road story, and it's a lot of different genres. But I can't recommend it enough. It's one of Straczynski's best works, and I know, as I recall in the introduction, he explains, like, this is a very personal story to him. It's not just something that he came up with out of nowhere.
Yeah. For Straczynski, you mean? Okay.
Yes. So, but yeah. So, I mean, I recommend both those books. If you get a hold of Thunderstrike's easy. There's got to be like 100,000 copies around the nation of Thunderstrike. I have like 3 copies myself that I came across.
Oh yeah, dude. That's to be honest, I wasn't thinking that wouldn't be hard to find. It'd definitely be in back issue or probably, unfortunately, discount bins.
Oh no, it absolutely is. And look, there's nothing wrong with it. Look, there's a lot of great comics, like discount,
dude,
like 50 cent and dollar bins. You can find real gold there. And is it going to be worth a ton? Usually not. Every once in a while, you'll find a valuable book in a dollar bin, but
and that's how I found some the like older Wretch stuff as well. Before I got the omnibus, because I couldn't find any. It's really hard to find single issues of The Wretch. That's why I'm kind of glad I got the omnibus. As weird as this, like I was trying to explain it, it's really hard to explain. It's such a weird book, but it's very fun.
But yeah, I mean, especially now, like when you have a lot of time on your hands, like you think about, let's say, the average comic book these days is $5. If you go into a 50-cent bin, that's 10 books.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's, and they usually don't charge you tax on those 50-cent and dollar bins. It depends. Like a lot of them are dollar bins, so that would be $5. But and if you get older books, like that Thunderstrike #1 is like 40 pages.
Yeah, and I think going back to the Legionnaire story that was staying at the top of the episode, you were with me and we were digging through those bins of Time Warp, and you noticed there was a mix between older and some newer titles in there. And when I took stuff home, a lot of the new stuff. Now, keep in mind, some of the newer stuff was either stuff that was overshipped or didn't sell, and the owner put in these discount bins. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't pay paying 50 cents. I don't feel like I'm ripped off. But if I was going to buy some of those newer issues, they're $4 or $5. It's like I would feel ripped off, to be honest, and that's why I'm glad I had some of these bins. Because I find stuff like Legionnaires, and there's other great stories. I think Megaton Man was another one that I found in there that was a great book for 50 cents. It's a great story, and I feel like I can get more of that kind of just great reading material for a lower price versus some of the modern stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not true for every modern book or every indie book, or in mainstream.
No, you're not generalizing. You're just saying, look, there's a lot of love that went into 90s comics. And, are they silly? Absolutely. But you can find a lot of cool stuff. And look, you'll find, usually in dollar bins, you'll find a gamut. They're not going to overload dollar bins with newer books because, those cost a lot more than they did back then. Yeah. For them to, the stores don't get them for free. They have to pay a percentage of what they're selling it for. But, anyway. But, this has been fun. I think the next thing we're going to do is probably that Lock and Key.
Oh, yeah.
I actually have to sit down and watch a couple of episodes of it.
I watched... Before we, because you should probably finish it before we talk about it. Because
the whole thing, I don't know if I can get through the whole series. I'll watch a few episodes before we do this. But
what else you got to do?
It was so hard to get through. It really wasn't. I mean, I know we generally try to talk about things we like on this. This is going to be one of the few exceptions.
Oh yeah. I think I did it a couple of times during the episode. Every time we mention, it's like, if you like that show, please don't watch it, because I don't want to shit on something someone likes, but there's a reason I feel this way.
But I'm gonna try and watch at least 4 episodes, and I'm gonna jot down some notes because I'd like it. The one thing I didn't like about our Spider-Man discussion was I was a little disorganized. I should have really had an outline of things I wanted to talk about instead of jumping all over the place. But yeah, well, thank you, Travis.
Thank you, sir. And
once again, tell people where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Travis _Hymel, Hymel. I also have a new YouTube channel as well. You can just search me under just Travis Hymel and it should pop up. Unfortunately, until I get a few more subscribers, I can't really change my...
same with me. My
there's URL or anything. But you can search it. I just put a video up there that I had fun with. It's a little cheesy. But it's me paying homage for 90s cards, 90s Marvel cards, and drawing it and talking through the process of while I'm drawing it during the kind of the sped up video. So definitely check it out, like and subscribe it.
It's not cheesy. It's a good video. If you've never watched an artist breakdown, like how they draw a panel, it's very instructive because, I mean, even though you're sort of redrawing an old comic book card, essentially it is a panel.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean the process would be very similar. So, thank you.
Where can people check you out?
Right here, baby doll. Send pics of boobs and buns.
That's a t-shirt. Boobs and buns.
Just a picture of me, boobs and buns.
Yeah.
No, find me here, Instagram at Buck Lightning. Wait, Buck _ Lightning. Oh, I don't remember.
Are you asking me if that's what your Twitter handle is?
What is my Twitter handle?
Can you do like a hard cut in between when you started?
Yes, it's Buck _ Lightning. I don't know, dude. It's so hard to keep track of all
this is what I see on my screen. Hold on, what is it? Hold on. It's Buck loves stuff. Or no, I'm sorry, that's not right.
Buck loves buns.
Buck hates everything.
This, you know what? I think I need you to draw me a new header for Lightning Culture. It's just going to be a picture of me doing this, and then write Buck loves buns. Hot buns.
In the 10 years that it'll take for this channel to take off, then we can finally make t-shirts of that.
YouTube might be canceled by the time this channel takes off. Oh, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you, sir.
And go read some comics.